Hi, this is Michael Becker, and in this Tinderbox lesson, I'm going to review with you a new capability that was introduced into Tinderbox 9.1. And that capability is functions. Now, what functions allow you to do is to consolidate all of your action code into discrete functional notes. These functional notes then can be used to easily propagate and leverage action code through all of your Tinderbox capabilities, and as well as to be able to produce values internally within the function that you can then use to perform calculations and other kinds of actions within your action code. So functions are really, really robust new capabilities that have been added to Tinderbox 9.1, and I'm just going to show you the very tip of the iceberg of what you can do with them. Now, I'm going to do that by demonstrating to you some action code that I've been developing that allow me to dynamically create notes based on values in a note's attributes, and then link those newly created notes to the note. And then unlink them as well when the values in those attributes change. So let me go ahead and jump in and show you how all of that works. In addition to that, I'm going to demonstrate some regex to you, some regular expression. I'll demonstrate to you some use of a TBX config note. I'll also demonstrate to you some templates, possibly some hotkeys that I leverage as I use Tinderbox. So there is a lot going on in this lesson. Now, to be very clear, for those that do not use Tinderbox 9.1, you'll benefit greatly from this lesson. So you'll want to listen to it, look at the action code, because all of the action code used in this lesson can be used in the traditional way that Tinderbox functions, and I'll demonstrate that to you. And for those that have been upgrading to 9.1, you'll get to get a quick lesson on how to use the new function capability. So let's jump right in and let me show you how that works. Okay, so here I have a Tinderbox note. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is you'll see I've got notes and I've got some resources and a bunch of prototypes and some templates and some function libraries I've created. So let's go ahead and create our first note. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Shift Option Return to create a note. And I'll call this one Note A. And actually, more importantly, why don't we call this note Pizza Party? Okay. And I'm going to say, I want to have a pizza party. Okay. And you'll note that this note was created and took on the prototype from the on-add that I told it, and I had it dynamically create a prefix. Now, I use prefixes on all of my notes for a lot of reasons that will become apparent as we go through this lesson, and I can also explain that more later down the road. So you'll see here that I've got, I want to create, I want to have a pizza party, is what I just said, and I can say, I love pizza. Now, let's add some terms to this note. So some of the terms that we want to create is pizza and cheese and sausage. So we like those, pizza, cheese, and sausage. And look, the second I put the values cheese, pizza, and sausage into the attribute term, look, Tinderbox created cheese, pizza, and sausage notes, and then it also linked these to those notes. And I can actually click on these and say, look, pizza is super yummy. Okay, how about pizza is a super yummy food? Okay, so I'm defining the term pizza, and then I can go back. So again, this is a simplistic example, but I find this kind of capability really useful when I'm doing my research, when I'm writing papers, when I'm doing research. So as I come up with a new term, I can create that term. Tinderbox creates the note for me. I can then later go and define that note and then go back and forth as I'm linking through them. Now, also too, let's say I don't want to have pizza here, but rather mushroom, right? Look what happens. Right? So now I've got mushroom, and mushroom is now linked, but wait a minute, where did the sausage link go? The sausage note's still there, but the sausage link disappeared. Well, the sausage link disappeared because I removed it from the terms. If I add sausage back in, you'll actually see that it's going to get relinked. And that same thing happens with everything else. We'll take a pizza party, and we'll say it's going to be in Sunnyvale, California. And the people I want to invite are, I want to invite Michael Becker, and let's say Mark B and Mark A. All right, so I'm going to invite myself, Michael B, and Mark A to the pizza party, and you'll notice that these automatically created. So what I've got Tinderbox doing is automatically creating notes and linking those notes when attributes are added. Now let me show you what's going on here. You'll also see here too that I've got this prefix, as I was telling you before, note pizza party, but the short title doesn't actually have the prefix. So let's take a look at the first bit of action code here. So I've got action code in a function that's basically saying create a string variable, perform this action, and then the results of this action, of this variable output, I want you to return back to the original note. And so that's essentially what's happening. So I'm telling the note to call the function short title and return the note. And let me just, before I demonstrate that, let me just show you how that works in traditional Tinderbox. So I'll say, note party 1 as a note, and I'll spell it properly. And I'll give this note a short title, and I'm now going to add the action code, the rule, to this note. And since it's not a function, I'll add in the attribute short title. So essentially now what I'm doing is saying on this particular note, it says if the name contains this pattern, which is basically a hyphen followed by a space, I want you to pull anything following the hyphen space and stick it into short title. So by doing that, I can now run that, and you'll see automatically it says party 1. So you'll see this action code works anywhere within the file as it traditionally would. Now, the fact that we're using a function, essentially what I'm now doing is, if you look here, I'll go to the notes, you'll see that I'm telling the notes, go make short title of these notes whatever the value that gets returned from the function short title. So in that regard, you'll see that all of these notes are properly processing this action code that is in the function. So the way to interject a function into your Tinderbox notes is to simply stick the function, the name that you've given the function, in this case f short title, I've given the name. That name could be anything you want. So if I wanted to change this and have it be whatever I want, that would be called by your action code, and then your code would perform your action code and whatever you're telling it to do, and go through the process. So that's how I'm processing the short title. Now let me show you how I'm processing this automatic note creation and linking. So you'll see here under term, and you notice I've got each one for the different attributes: term, location, event, contact, etc. And you'll see here, essentially what I'm doing is I'm saying, hey Tinderbox, here are some basic variables for this function. The path, I want any new terms to be put in, the prefix I want you to give it, and the link type I want you to give it. And then I want you to be able to say for each term, for each value in the attribute term, I want you to process that, give it the prefix that we defined up here, pass the value here, and then create that note. And then similarly, I want you then to link that note. And in a future video, I can break this action code down and explain this more. But I'm trying to give you the overall picture in this lesson, because I don't want the lesson to go too long. So that's what's happening here. This action code is telling Tinderbox to go create a new note for the term that was entered into the attribute term, and to link that new note to the existing note. So let's go ahead and create another party. So we'll now call this one office party. Okay, and so now we've got another one called office party, and it's got pizza. So let's say it has sandwiches. Okay, and let's see, it's got ham sandwiches. So we're gonna ham and sandwiches, and the event is office party. And let's say it's in Mountain View, California. And this time I'm going to invite mom and dad to that party, as well as include myself. And there you go. And so now I'm getting more notes created, more links happening, and that's how those are working. And you'll notice that all of these other notes, the create link, create a link to the term and remove a term. Now the remove function I haven't demonstrated yet. So if we look here, what this is a note saying is basically establishing the path where you want the note removed, the prefix of the note and the term. And then I'm essentially now telling Tinderbox when I want something removed. And let's go demonstrate that again. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to say, well, I'm going to remove mushrooms from this party. You'll see now mushrooms automatically got unlinked from that note. And so how did that work? Well, the way that worked is if I go here, I'm telling Tinderbox, first set the variables of where I want the terms removed. And now I'm saying create a variable for the function that says what are all of the linked notes. And so the way it's going about doing that is it's saying go down, look at all the linked notes that are that have the link type term on this note and capture those short titles. Then what I want you to do is look at take the value of that list of all of those notes and then take that value and then minus the actual values in the attribute term. And then that will leave us with what has been removed. And then I'm telling Tinderbox to perform a function of unlinking that note. So let's go ahead and demonstrate that again. So you see here, and let's make this one a little easier. You see here that it's got ham and sandwiches are linked. Now if I remove sandwiches, so what that function is going to do is Tinderbox is constantly in the background processing this this element. It's saying, okay, on this note, ham and sandwiches are linked. Ham and sandwiches are linked. And the second I remove sandwiches, Tinderbox is now saying ham and sandwiches are linked. Oh, wait a minute, sandwiches is gone, so I'm now going to remove the sandwiches link. And that's how that works. And then I can go ahead and put it back. So we don't want to just have ham for our party. We want ham and sandwiches. And then I can also add cheese because we want to have cheese on our sandwiches too. And you'll see that it's added to cheese. So, and you'll also see that it's giving the link types as well for the notes. So that's what all of this code is able to do. Now, if you wanted to leverage this code and create your own, one little heads up, the contact ones is different because I don't use prefixes for contacts. You can read through the notes here, but I've zeroed out the prefix, and I have on the unlinking process, rather than linking to short title, I'm linking to name. That's just a heads up. I'll give you let you play with that later. But let's say we now wanted to use the same functionality but for a different attribute, such as like citation key. So let me show you how that works. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create or actually better yet, let's no, I'll use citation key, but I'm going to first remove it from here so that I don't confuse you. So let's say I want to go ahead and I'm going to take these two notes that I've previously made, and we'll enter them here, and I'll call them citation key. So the first one I'm going to say is citation key. Okay, and let me go ahead and change the name of this one now too. Okay, and now we're going to change the name of the function. So rather than calling the function citation key, we're going to be calling the function term, or citation key rather than term. And we're going to say we want our citations to go into a reference directory, references, and they're going to be references, and they're going to be references are going to be the link types, and the attribute they're going to interrogate is citation key. Okay, and that does that one, and then we'll go through and do the same thing here, and what we can do is just copy these variables because they're the same. Okay, and this time we're going to say its reference is, I'm sorry, link type is references, so let's fix that, and we'll fix this. Okay, so now what we've done is we've now created a new link unlink action that are just using references. Now watch what happens here. Let's say we're going to make this reference for this party to Becker 2021, and nothing's going to happen. Well, why did nothing happen? Well, nothing happened because we didn't actually include in the action code of the prototype the call for the function. So I'm going to go ahead and copy these, and I'm going to put in the name of that function we just created. All right, so we created the function here. Okay, hit enter. And all of a sudden, automatically, the term references was automatically created. And you'll see there's the new note that we've created. Now, this note did not take on the property of references because the on add of the references directory was dynamically created in real time. So let's go ahead and just update that one. And we'll update our action code here. And we want it to actually have references as the prototype. And so now that we've set that up, in the future, when we want to have other parties, let's say this one is going to be Becker 2021A as a reference. Okay, and you'll automatically, prototype equals, I didn't want that to be full. Oh, this references became a prototype for some reason. So let me fix that. Okay, and we'll go ahead and fix these references. And now those notes will work. And so now in the future, when we add future references, you'll see that these are actually going to add in the prototype references. And that's the problem. It's reference. Okay, they will add the prototype reference to these new notes, and they get dynamically created too. So hopefully you get the sense of what's going on with this really exciting action code, and it will give you a lot to play with and learn from Tinderbox. The last couple things I wanted to show you is I use what's called a config note, and what the config note is doing is it also has action code that is running constantly in the background, pulling in different values. And so you see here, for example, we've just added this reference citation key capability in our note. So I'll update my config note to demonstrate that functionality, and I'll go like this. So what I'm essentially doing here is, let's say I'm looking at this note, and the way Tinderbox works is when you look at this file, it will actually look at all of the values across all of your notes that are in that particular attribute and let you select from them. And so I really like this feature. So let's say I wanted to be able to adding pizza to this party too. Well, I could just go ahead and select from all of the attributes, aka the terms that already exist in the file, and then that way I can add pizza to the file. Pizza automatically gets linked, and I don't have to worry about having misspelled it or creating new notes. It's a really fantastic capability. But let's say I went in here and I manually added a term at some point, and we'll call this one, let's go pineapple. All right, so I've created a new term called pineapple. But pineapple is not anywhere in any of these notes. But because I've created this term pineapple, and I have my my config node constantly looking at and collecting all of the terms that are being populated in the terms directory, if I go back up to this note, even though none of my other notes have the term pineapple in them, you'll actually see pineapple now appears there. And so then I can go ahead and select pineapple, and it too will now show up on that note. So that's a really effective tool I use to make sure that I'm getting my terminology and my links and my associations consistent. So to be able to update this note to have it work for citations, the one we just created, you'll notice right here, right now, citations is empty. If I go ahead and paste this in, and I say I want it to be looking at the references directory, and I want it to be collecting all of its children, and I hit enter, and I run the code. Whoops, because I erased the event. There we go. Citation, run the code. You'll now see that it is going to go out and resources, references, short title. And it will go ahead and process all of those citations. And that's how we basically build up that particular file. Now, the last thing I wanted to show you here was the templates. So I've created a template for my various resource pages. So the other reason why I like this strategy of linking notes and creating notes is I can now actually create an index too. So if you look here and I click on preview, I now actually have a report that lets me generate essentially an index and the definition of all of the terms I use across all of my notes and those that one I've defined. So I can say here, like, my son does not like mushrooms, right? And so by updating that term, I can actually see that in my final report. I can also see that when I go look at notes that have actually linked to mushrooms. And so let's go find a note that's linked to mushrooms. Well, currently nothing's linked to mushrooms. So let's go here. We'll have this one linked to mushrooms now. Okay, and you now see it's linked to mushrooms, and I can actually see my son doesn't like mushrooms. So this is a really great way to not only have notes linked to these notes, but also to be able to create previews from them as well. And then because of the way I've structured the templates, I'm using a resource templating strategy here, where I'm linking to different child templates depending on the structure of the file. I can also go ahead here and see a subset of those methods as well. And again, future other Tinderbox trainings teach how to do templates, and we can dig into this in more detail. But what I'm hopeful is that this instruction has given you this broad overview of the really power that Tinderbox has in helping you create and write and think and analyze all of your notes and develop strategies for creating new notes, linking new notes, leveraging and using action code, and leveraging and using the templating capability of Tinderbox. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to help. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this. Bye-bye.